Reports says it found high levels of inorganic arsenic in rice and nearly every single rice product tested. Okay, so what does that mean? I know we're asking, should we stop eating rice, rice crackers, rice-based cereals? Dr. Urvashi Rangan with Consumer Reports is joining us now to help us get through this. So thank you so much, Doctor. Let's start with the rice. Where is this arsenic coming from?
Well, that's a great question. I mean, there are some naturally occurring levels of arsenic in the soils and waters. We also do our own part to cycle arsenic into our food supply. We feed it to animals. We use their manures to fertilize crops. We use arsenical pesticides, so we're doing our part as well. We've also had historical use of arsenical pesticides in places where we grew cotton. We're growing rice in a lot of those similar places as well. So that sort of explains at least the gamut for why arsenic gets taken up into rice.
Okay, but when we say high levels, how high are we talking? How dangerous is this for us?
Well, these levels, when you at least contrast them to the limits that are set in water and what a person would actually get from drinking a liter of water at the federal limit for arsenic, which is 10 parts per billion, the levels come in anywhere from up to 50%, up to 80%, 90%, even from just one serving of some of the rice products that we tested. So we're talking about levels that are really comparable to what we're seeing in water in terms of the amounts for a maximum limit. In terms of cancer risks, we think it's too much, and we think that we can do a lot more to get these levels down and reduce people's risk to arsenic in general.
You said every rice product. Does that mean every kind of rice out there as well, or are we just talking white rice?
We looked at a number of different rice products, brown rice products, white rice products. We looked at them from different geographical locations. And the silver lining in all of this is that there are variable levels of arsenic across those rices. It depends on where you grow it, how you grow it. All of those things, including what we do while we're growing it, can impact the amount of arsenic taken up by the rice.
So you just think we should limit our intake?
Yeah, we actually think the federal government should set standards for it, as we do for water, because of the known carcinogenicity of inorganic arsenic. We think that we need to start setting limits for food, especially those foods that we know that are prone to taking up moderate to high levels of arsenic from the soil. Rice is at the top of the list. Apple juice is another one that we looked into in January 2012. These are crops that if arsenic is there, they like to take it up, but there are things we can do both in how we produce them and what we plant and where we plant to mitigate these things. We simply don't have those practices in place at that point. That's why we're asking the government to set a standard so that we can incentivize those efforts to reduce the amount of arsenic we're putting into our food supply and the levels that we see in rice.
Okay, and real quickly, I know tuna, there was also a report about some real alarming mercury levels there. We know that there is some naturally occurring mercury in fish, but what is this coming from? Is it coming from the fish? Is it coming from the packaging?
No, mercury also, similar to arsenic, can occur in the environment, but there are also man-made sources of mercury that come out from emission plants, coal-fired power plants, pollution essentially that disperses all over the environment. And I think it's a really great analogy where we're taking something that may occur naturally, but we're doing our own part to significantly spread the amounts of it around the environment and ultimately affecting our food and water supplies.
Okay, so I know consumer groups are recommending the U.S. Department of Agriculture get tuna out of school lunchrooms after these tests. One, is that warranted? And two, look, I'm a mom, I've got 3 kids, like so many people out there, or people that just like tuna. What do we need to watch out for? How much should we limit here?
Well, I can't speak to that study specifically, but I think we also have consumption recommendations when it comes to tuna and children limiting their consumptions of that. They're smaller weighted people. Their exposure, whether to mercury or to arsenic in rice, can be significant compared to an adult's weight. And so no matter what, when it comes to children and children's exposure to heavy metals in the food supply, we do need to take care to limit their exposure carefully.
All righty. Hey, thank you so much. We appreciate it, Doctor.